The 48th season on the FIL Luge World Cup kicks off here in Lillehammer, Norway, a beautiful location on the shores of Lake Mjøsa. We're at the Hunderfossen track, built in 1992 and premiered in 1993, and of course the Olympics were in 1994. Opening World Cup women's singles competition, Austria's Barbara Almayer in third. World champion from Austria, Lisa Schulte, is in second, and leading the way, the four-time overall World Cup champion from Germany, Julia Taubitz. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer, pleased to be joined by Team Ireland's Elsa Desmond. And Elsa, some surprises, some expectations, and a lot of fun on this track in run number one.
Absolutely. A great first run, some mistakes happening, some unexpected people towards the top of the rankings. Julia, never a surprise, but we can see here the ice is -3, the air is +3. We might see that impacting the speeds on the ice towards the end of the athletes a little bit. Definitely warmer than we had in the first run, definitely warmer than we've had in the training yesterday.
Definitely cooler than a lot of races last year.
Absolutely.
Tatjana Höfner, she still holds a slew of start records around the world, and the track record 46.935 was set. Was that set today?
That was set today.
It was set today, earlier today.
First time we've seen a 46 on this track. Really exciting to see this sport developing and the times improving as we go through the years.
Second run coming up later today. It's men's doubles competition on this very busy opening day of the World Cup season. We're about a 1.5 hour drive north of the city of Oslo. And nice new graphics this year as we take a closer look at this track. They start a little lower here in the women's competition, just above curve 4.
It's quite a tricky start ramp here. It does often push you to the right-hand side. You need to be on that right-hand side to get that cut into curve 4. This track isn't really made to be going from ladies, it's made to be going from men. So the women are trying to get that angle into curve 4, that nice cut at the beginning, to set them up well for the rest of the track. Quite a fast track. You can get speeds over 120 in these women's races, so they're going to be wanting to make sure they build that speed into the bottom section.
And we take another look at what they call the sled camera, the POV. The drone takes us to the start, the sled takes us the rest of the way down.
I would ignore the speeds a little bit because this POV is taken from the men's start. The women won't be going so fast here through this top section. As we're coming into curve, into the labyrinth here, this is still quite a flat section of the track. We're building our speed here, really focusing on our form, putting our head back as we're coming to curve 10. Curve 10, really important, sets you up nicely for the tricky section of the track, here through 11, getting that nice early entrance into 12. And this is the section where we've seen people making mistakes. This 12-13 transition, you need this clean line through 13 to get this nice exit. So much time can be lost here, and it's so easy to hit the walls. And then again, into these big bottom corners, you can lose a lot of time here, but equally you can gain a lot of time, as we've seen in the first run.
Well, welcome to our viewers tuned in around the world, watching on YouTube television, especially those of you out in Western Canada. You've got 2 Canadian women coming up in a moment as we check out the start list. The leaderboard has 1 German, 3 Austrians, and 2 Americans making up the top 6, but a lot of countries represented here, including Canada and Italy and Latvia, some other Germans, and it all will be led off by the young Ukrainian, Juliana Tunitska.
So 20 athletes competing here in this second run, cut from the original 30 that we saw in that first run. And this will be the more traditional start order of the slowest first and the fastest last that we're used to from the previous seasons. So Juliana in 20th place after that first run will be going off first, and Julia, who was obviously in first place after that.
And the top 3 all within a 10th. But then Emily Sweeney and Dorothy and some are quite a bit farther back. So they may need to rely on some sort of mistake from the top 3 for them to get in the podium, as well as, of course, being perfect themselves.
Absolutely. Really small margins we're working with here as we see our first athlete preparing.
Juliana Tunitska, just 21 years old, but in her 5th season on the World Cup. She represents Ukraine. Her favorite track is Whistler. And despite just being 21 years old, she already has 1 Olympics under her belt. She finished 21st in Beijing.
The Ukrainian team, mostly based out of Sigolda nowadays. They had a huge amount of time there over the summer on wheels and a lot of time there in the preseason. Such a technical track, Sigolda. So these Ukrainian athletes are such good drivers because of where they are based.
You know, we did a lot of coverage over the last couple of years of all of the struggles in the nation of Ukraine and how these athletes have had to overcome it. You know, we don't want to keep repeating ourselves, but it is also a story that bears keeping in mind every season.
Absolutely. There is still a lot of difficulties going on for Ukraine, and just for them to be out here and competing with such sort of fantastic results is really fantastic to see. Putting together a nice run here so far. She's having clean lines, getting that nice early transition into 13. And again, really solid exit of 13 there. So far, this is a very good run for her.
She had a 47.633 in the first run. Here we have a 47.647. If nothing else, consistent. And consistency is an important component in this sport.
Absolutely, and just as an athlete in general, Juliana is an incredibly consistent athlete. We've seen that from her throughout the preseason and last season. She does have a lot of consistency. She is very confident on a sled, and she is a really strong young athlete. Really nice lines there out of 13, really pushing that head
back. Great profile, yeah. One down, 19 to go.
Next one up from Canada, we have Caitlin.
Well, you heard the preview from our public address announcer, Caitlin Nash, one of two Canadians in run number 2, as Anton Dukash of Team Ukrainian still cheering on Juliana. But here is Caitlin. She has won one World Cup podium. That was 2 years ago in Park City, Utah, in doubles. But now the 21-year-old full-time singles competitor. Quick little settle, but a smooth one.
Yeah, having that doubles experience under her belt can give her so much confidence. Doubles is a very challenging discipline, and she's now coming into these singles. We've seen some really strong results from her last season, and she's really developing now as a singles slider. Putting together a nice run here so far in the green.
She was pretty much in a dead heat with the Ukrainian after run number 1. They were just 0.05 of a second apart. So she's opened up quite a bit on Tanitska here.
Little problems there off the end of 13. Managed to keep it straight and avoid that wall. And quite a rough transition there into 15. Oh, and clipping before 16.
Caitlin Nash will join us tomorrow for the commentary of the mixed team relay competition. But here she crosses at 135.033. I'm not sure where our slow-mo will be here, but if it's is this 12-13?
This is 12-13.
So what do you have to do right to go into 13?
So you need to be high on the end of 12 for quite a long time, and then you need to drop out of 12 to get a really early transition
a low
and
entrance
parallel.
into 13.
Yeah, so you want to be on the right-hand side as the athlete is sliding, and you want to be going parallel. If you go in on the left-hand side, if you go in late, it's going to make it very difficult to avoid that loop. You'll be high in the entrance, low in the middle, high on the end, and that's when we're seeing people having problems.
I'm trying to think what that reminds me of. Maybe Koenigsee, where you enter the Kreisel off of that Jenner curve or something, and you need to be low to get into the Kreisel.
Yeah, also any of the big corners in Oberhof. In Oberhof, you need to get those early transitions, otherwise you again have those looping waves.
Verena Hofer puts in the patented Italian fast start, which quickly makes her, it moves her into the lead by 0.03 of a second.
She did have a little bit of a lead going over into this run, about 300s. So she is building on that. Really nice form there, pressing her head back. So as we come into 12, this is what you'll see. She wants to be on that right-hand side to avoid this loop here. And she managed that very well.
She had 500s on Nash after run number 1. That's about what she's maintaining here on the final few curves. Should she stay in the green? She does. Verena Hofer by 1/10 of a second. She doubled that advantage over Nash on the last few curves. 3 Italians in today's run number 2, all qualifying for a second run. But Elsa, really, the doubles gain with Andy doing such great things in women's doubles has cost Italy a bit in women's singles. because they have not been on the podium, I don't believe, since Andi Vetter moved to doubles.
Yeah, Italy's main sort of medal winning hopes at the moment are with those women's doubles. Last season, particularly in the second half of the season, we only saw 2 women racing in the singles discipline as Sandra was out with her injury. So it's good to see that they have 3 athletes back. There's still a spot for a 4th athlete. They are allowed 4 athletes in this World Cup, so I wonder if they'll be looking to fill that next season or later this season. But yeah, they're just not getting the medals that they have in previous years at the moment.
Trinity Ellis from Pemberton, British Columbia. She paddles her way towards the right wall, but stays clear of hitting it, although it looked a little awkward on that curve 4.
A little bit of a wave there. She has dropped behind. Yeah, Pemberton very close to Whistler, so she's based out of that Whistler track, one of the Whistler athletes. She's dropping behind here. Will she be able to make this up in the bottom section of the track if she keeps it clean? Verena had a very clean run, so she will have to put down a good run here to make up the time.
800ths of a second behind at this point. As here's the key part of this track. Nice exit.
Nice exit. You could see she dropped her feet a little bit there. She didn't look entirely confident in that line, and she has dropped a little bit more behind, and I don't think she'll be able to get into the green here.
Lost a little time down there at the bottom, so it's only a 3rd place time behind both the leading Italian and Trinity's teammate, Caitlin Nash, who moves up 1 spot.
These Canadian athletes, still, some of them are so very young. They came up to the circuit at a very young age. You could see here, not a bad start getting nicely to that right-hand side, but it looks like she had to work a bit to stay off that right wall and maybe clip that right wall on the start, costing her some time. But here she had a really nice exit of 13, managed to keep it nice and straight. Ooh, having to work a little bit there, dropping her foot, and that will have cost her some time.
Robert Fegg, former German junior world champion, former USA head coach, now is leading the Canadian program. But here we go, last alphabetically, but first in the hearts of the Sioux Tyroleans. This is Nina Zugler, 23 years old, originally from Bozen. She has been competing on the national team for 9 years.
Already behind off that start there. It was so close amongst these athletes for who was leading after the first run, sorry. Looking nice through this labyrinth here, getting that form, really pressing that head back, but she is unfortunately bleeding time here.
After Nina goes, we have a couple in the next 5 or 6 that are sometimes top 5 finishers, so we'll really get a sense if their runs are clean, whether the track is staying fair.
She had a late entrance to 13. She managed it really well, though, but that will have cost her a little bit more time as she comes into the finish.
Italy 1 and 3, Canada 2 and 4 right now. It's Verena Hoffa of Italy continuing to hold the top spot.
And lots of these athletes from these nations where they have more than two sleds competing, they will be having this internal competition to decide who's going to compete in the mix event tomorrow, as there is only two pairings from each nation.
And is it, to the best of your knowledge, similar to how it is with the traditional team relay where different nations have different criteria, or is it simply your best result will get you in?
I expect it will be different nations have different criteria. We did have a test event last week, at the beginning of this week, sorry, on Monday, for that new discipline. So people had to sort of guess at who they were going to put in. It might be that nations stick with who they chose then. It might be that nations change depending on their own criteria. So it will be interesting to see tomorrow who we get in that mix event.
The number 1 you see on the racing bib of Melina Fisher signifies not how she is ranked, but where she started in run number 1. She finished 5th yesterday in qualifying, and that gave her the number 1 start time in the first run earlier today.
Already in the green here for this young German. And again, this is going to be the internal competition that we see for these Germans as to who's going to get into their mix events tomorrow.
And who will ultimately get to Cortina next February. There are 4 in the field here, but 5 really that took part in the racing with the Nations Cup as well. So It's always a battle.
Ooh, just tapping her feet down there. Some problems out of that curve 13, where we've been seeing everyone having problems there. That will have cost her some time, but I think she will stay in the green.
And she does, in fact, with a 134.900. As Elsa mentioned, she lost about 0.07 of a second on the final few curves, but hung on 29 hundredths up on Verena Hoffler.
And she looks very happy with that result, which really is all we want to see. You could see here she just had some issues out of 13, keeping it off that left wall, putting herself into a little bit of a skid and just tapping those feet down.
We welcome our viewers tuned in on YouTube TV. We've got our new chat platform on YouTube TV. If you've got questions and comments, we've left X and email behind. So we've got some Russian fans, Russian viewers watching today. Unfortunate, of course, Elsa, as Anna Beerreiter grabs those handles, not to have Russia, understandably politically, wherever you stand on that one. But the fact remains, the last time we were here with the World Cup in 2020, Russia dominated.
Absolutely, and we've been seeing on social media that the Russian athletes are still sliding. They are still racing out in Sochi. They're having their national championships. So good that their program hasn't died. It's good to see that they are still on the ice. And when the time is right and things have settled, they'll be back in the World Cup, I am sure.
Anna Beerreiter holding on to a slim 0.07 of a second lead over her countrywoman, Fischer.
Putting down a nice run here so far, nice and clean. No major issues. How will this 12:13 look? A little bit later than you might like, but managing that very well.
She was a 47.42 in the first heat. This figures to be better.
Top speed 123 there as she comes into the finish.
47.205, so 0.2 of a second better here in run number 2. In fact, that 47.20 would have put her in 5th place, I believe, 5th place in run number 1. All things being equal, which of course they're not an hour and a half later.
Not at all in this run. Crazy that an athlete currently ranked, where are we? Currently ranked in 14th.
Yeah, 14th place.
14th place could beat the track record from coming into today.
Yeah.
Just shows how fast the ice is and how much things have progressed since the last race here in 2019. Although I believe the track record at the beginning of the day was actually held by a German athlete from the Junior World Championships here last year.
Alina Bota from Latvia, 24 years old, out of Sigulda. Very fast here at the start traditionally. Quick settle. Let's see the start time, a 2.347. That's the fastest of the run so far, and it's about 0.02 of a second off of the start record.
It's a very challenging start ramp here. It is very steep, so trying to build that momentum can be challenging, but she's putting together a nice run so far.
Second split coming up in about 2 seconds here, and the interval time puts her 0.2 of a second up on Beerreiter.
Nice transition there, and a clean exit of 13.
One of her favorite tracks is St. Moritz, Switzerland, as she moves well out in front. St. Moritz, the site, you may remember, Elsa, of Alina's surprise victory. I think that was in 2021. Very snowy day in Switzerland. And I forget the start position she had, but it was enough to give her the victory because the track just kept slowing down.
Yes, I remember that race. It was
final World Cup of the season, actually.
Yes, it was. And I believe Natalie Mag got a bronze medal there as well that same year.
Yep. And then it was snowing so heavy that they had to cancel the relay, which was going to be the final event of the year. So it was very anticlimactic end to the year.
Very dramatic racing. And we will be back in St. Moritz next season after the Olympics. Speaking of St. Moritz.
And the aforementioned Natalie Mag. Natalie, a silver medal winner last year at the World Championship Sprint. If nothing else, the Swiss have created magic over the past decade in the sprint event. Martina Kocher, a world champion in that discipline, back at the very first Sprint World Championship.
I will be interested to see if we get to see the sprint again with the introduction of this new mixed event. Obviously, it's not happening this season, but it's still a possibility for the future. Mag already dropping behind here, but there is still plenty of track. She could make up that time.
The 27-year-old has really been battling a lot of injuries over the past several months. She had a shoulder injury. She jammed her finger, and that slowed down her training quite a bit.
Very physical sport, luge. Unfortunately, injuries are quite common, and they can have big effects on our results.
Finding time down at the bottom, that's kind of makes this event fun, and we hope to see more of that in red the entire way, and then green at the final when the clock stopped. That's great.
Great to see her making up that time, and it's just those bottom corners, they're big, and there's so much time that can be lost or won there, and she really took advantage of that and got into the green.
Nice job out of corner 13, keeping that head back. It's not that long a straightaway back over to the finish from there.
Just looking really relaxed on the sled, which is great to see from her.
Kendia Apariol, 27 years old. One of the highlights of her career, she says, will be coming up tomorrow, where she hopes, this isn't a sure thing yet, but she is expecting to race alongside her brother in the mixed singles.
That will be fantastic to see. Obviously there's two sibling sets that we will be seeing tomorrow.
The Swedish team as well, right?
So for these nations where you get to race alongside a sibling where maybe you haven't had the opportunity before, a really exciting day for them tomorrow.
I actually asked her, doesn't that make you more nervous? You don't want to mess up with your brother? She said, no, he'll be great to be with. 0.06 of a second up, Latvia over Switzerland midway down the track.
From red to green there, as she comes into this curve 12-13 section.
Kendia Apariol out of curve 13. She's still just 0.06 of a second. This has been neck and neck, these two sleds.
Will it be red? Will it be green?
It is red. It is basically the opposite of what we saw in the last run, where it turned green at the very end. 0.03 of a second, Elsa, the differential between the leader, Madeleine Egle, and Kendia Apariol in second.
But it just shows you the time that Natalie managed to find down in that bottom section, because there was no obvious mistakes, there was no major issues there, but she just dropped back on the time where Mag really found that speed.
Really well done there. See no problems where she would have lost the time.
Yeah, looking very clean there out of 13.
This was an interesting run in number one. Run the first heat. Madeleine Egle, of course, maybe one of the three most consistent women's sliders in the world. I didn't recall seeing any major mistakes, but she found herself back in 10th place.
It looked like she hadn't got her hand in there. It looked like she might have been struggling to get her right hand in that curve 4. But she is in the green for now. Madeleine obviously got a bronze medal at the Youth Olympics here in 2016.
Right here, yeah.
The other athletes on the podium, Brooke and Jessie, both have retired now. So the only one of those three still sliding.
Jessie Teeble,
yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay, she's opening up a big lead. This is a little more like the Madeleine we know. She had the fastest start time.
Really pressing her head back there, finding the speed in this section. As you said, far more what we would expect to see.
47.302 in the first run and 47.039. So quarter of a second faster. Let's see where that would have put her. That would have put her in 3rd place or 4th place in the first run.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened on the first run, whether it was a sled setup issue, because there was no obvious problems in her first run, but really finding the speed here in this second run. Really clean lines and just finding the time.
Right now it's Austria in front, then Switzerland, followed by 2 Latvians and 2 Germans. That's the top 6. And now we make our way to the top 9 after run number 1.
And the question, how long will Madeleine stay in that leader's box?
Well, let's see those splits. Sandra Robacher right here from Italy, the next to go, and she is only up by 0.003 of a second over Egle in the first run. And it's even close down to American Farquharson, Germany's Meryl Frabe. So, and Madeleine could move up a few spots.
Already in the red here, just showing what a strong start Madeleine was able to get there. Nice form though, really pressing her head back.
She calls Lillehammer one of her 2 favorite tracks, Sandra Robacher. So let's see what she can do in comfortable territory.
Interesting. I don't think this is a common favorite track,
well,
speaking to athletes.
That's right, but the Italians, as we mentioned earlier today, have had success here. Dominic Fischnaller has won a couple of times.
It is no one's from the big nations home track. Obviously the Norwegians and Swedish slide here, but unfortunately neither of those groups in medal contention today.
Second place, a rather distant second place, 12 hundredths in back of Madeleine Egle. So Robacher will stay in the top 10. That's significant. As we mentioned earlier, she's coming back from a lot of injuries and failed to crack the top 10 in any race last year. How's your German?
Very poor.
Maybe just thrilled to be in the top 10.
She clips a little early here into 13, but manages it well. It doesn't push her away, and she gets a nice clean line through 13 and holds it on the exit. You can just see her really relaxing back, that good form on the sled.
We have 3 Americans in the top 9 in today's race. USA captured women's doubles earlier today, and here in women's singles, Ashley Farquharson leads things off. 8th place after run number 1, originally from California, then Utah, now New York State, for the 25-year-old who was the top placing American at the Beijing Olympics.
Ashley is not the fastest starter on the circuit, but she does have an ability to make it up. Big loop there in curve 6. As she comes into the labyrinth, that will have cost her time. You can see she's already dropping back.
Can this go from red to green? She was fast down at the bottom in run number 2.
She is traditionally fast down at the bottom. She is making up time. She was 9 hundredths behind. She's now only 4. Nice and clean there out of 13, as she's now only 2 hundredths
of a second. This is going to be tight. Egle and Farquharson. Madeleine was very fast at the bottom and stays out in front of Ashley Farquharson. 9 thousandths of a second, the difference between Austria and the USA.
The track just not quite long enough for Ashley there to make up that time.
Well, and if the track had been longer, Madeleine may have extended the lead because she was really quick down at the bottom.
Very true.
76 miles per hour was Madeleine Egle's time, 76.1. Actually, Ashley was 1/10 of a mile an hour faster.
You see, she had this loop here in curve 6. She had a skid in curve 5, and I think that's what lost her the time in that top section.
That's the look you get when it's 9 thousandths of a second, right?
Such small margins.
7th place after run number 1 from Germany. Getting ready at the top, Meryl Frabe, 21 years old, from the city of Suhl, which is about 10 kilometers away from the track in Oberhof.
Start time 2:35. Next to start, Richard.
We have all 4 tracks in Germany represented on the World Cup. Merla and Julia out of Oberhof, although Julia is originally from Altenburg. Degenhardt, Altenburg, Rosenthal, Winterberg, a slew of Bavarians. They can't wait for that track to reopen in Königssee.
Yes, I believe it will be reopening next winter, which will be fantastic to see. Such a fun track to slide, so we're all looking forward to that being back on the circuit as she goes into the green here. Over Madeleine.
A terrific exit of curve 13. 8 thousandths of a second. This has been an incredibly great race. Tight times the last 4 or 5 sleds. And Frabe holds her spot by 3 hundredths over Madeleine Egle. So a good showing for Merle Frabel. It will guarantee a top 7, which is exactly where she finished in the World Cup overall last year.
A very clean run from her there, from Merle. Really nice lines. You can see her making up that time there.
Her win last year in Oberhof was very emotional. Her first victory, hometown crowd. Emotional. Merle is emotional. I see this a lot, also with the young athletes. When they finish 11th, they're all upset. When they finish on the podium, you have to moderate the emotions a little bit and take the good with the bad, right?
Absolutely. Sport is such an emotive thing. We all put our lives into this and our heart and soul into the ice. And so when you get a good run or a bad run, it is either fantastic or heartbreaking sometimes. Summer Britcher next.
Her favorite track is Lillehammer, and she was really the best on the ice back in 2018, right before the Olympics, where she won that World Cup race and podiumed as well, maybe even won the sprint competition. How was that curve 4? It looked a little rough.
A little bit rough on that transition, but the key thing there is no matter the entrance, to avoid skidding. And we couldn't see any skidding there from her, and she is still in the green, so she looks like she got away with that slightly rough entrance. She is still 200ths ahead on the time and staying in the green through this labyrinth as she builds speed.
3-time Olympian. In fact, Summer Britcher holds the track record in Pyeongchang from those 2018 Olympics. And this will be the first World Cup, returning there next February.
Yeah, returning to China and to Korea this year. For both of those, it will be the first time we've gone back there since the Olympics they held. Dross dropping back into the red there shows the amount of time that Merle was able to get in that bottom section.
This has been incredible, where it doesn't matter what split times and what red we're seeing or green we're seeing until that finish line. Things are happening in the final curve.
It is slightly uphill, that curve 16, and so again, it's another place that you can lose small margins. This is that slightly rough entrance into curve 4. But it didn't seem to have too much of an impact, and again, a nice clean exit from curve 13. Yeah, so going back to Asia this year for the first time since the Olympics were held in either China or Korea will be interesting to see how we stand up with the track records now. It's been quite a few years, particularly for Korea, so it will be interesting to see. And lots of these younger athletes will never have slid Korea, and we only have 2 or 3 training days. So.
We have 3 Austrians still coming up here in the last 5, 2 of them having qualified yesterday in Nations Cup. And here's Dorothea Schwartz, 5th place. She is only 9,000ths of a second, I should say, up on Frabel, and she's already in the red.
She is in the red by 500ths. There is still a lot of track, and we've seen people make up time in the bottom section, so let's see what she can do. So far, she is looking clean, and she's dropped back by 1 more 100th, now in 600ths behind. That nice early entrance into curve 13. And looking very clean there down the straight, and she is making up time.
To the finish, she stays in the red, 5th place. She falls back a significant number of spots behind both Americans and her teammate Madeleine Egle. It's Merle Frabel moving up 1 additional spot. The German has made it into the top 5.
Dorothea is still a very young athlete, still only just getting this experience onto the Senior World Cup circuit.
You were saying youngest athlete in the field, right?
Yes, 19. I think she is, yeah. So for her, this is going to be a great experience, a really good learning curve, something to build on as she goes into the rest of the season.
Emily Sweeney of the USA getting ready at the top. She had 2 podium finishes last year, 1 in Sigulda, 1 in Lake Placid, both in the sprint discipline. Emily has about 1,500ths to play with. Her advantage over Frabel after the first run, but I think she would rather put the pressure on the last 3 to go.
Again, you can just see her trying to get that left arm in prior to the start. It can be really tricky for athletes to get their hands in on this short start ramps that we see from the ladies' start.
Sweeney, 31 years old, got engaged to Dominic Fischnaller, her longtime partner, over this past summer, and together they are building a house in Milansen, Italy.
Congratulations to both of them. Putting together a really nice run here so far. She is in the green by 2/10.
As I said in run number 1, if Sweeney keeps it clean, she extends her advantage down at the bottom. That is her modus operandi, and she looks to do that. This will be a big lead for the USA. A track record 133.990 for the 2 heats, and that is 0.3 of a second up on the rest of the field. But Elsa, the podium is so important to these athletes. Is it enough to knock off any of the final 3?
Well, that is the question. That is a huge track record. We're now almost half a second faster than the track record that we had at the beginning of the day. Fantastic times.
And that was her father, incidentally, who I guess made the trip from New York State to Lillehammer, Norway. He was there to greet her at the outrun.
Oh, that is amazing for her to do that with her family there. Whether that will be enough to make it onto the podium, we are yet to see, but if that track record holds, certainly something to be proud of and walk away with.
And what's very positive for Sweeney is traditionally, and I don't want to be hard on her in her moment of glory here, but she's had a history of great run ones.
Yes.
That sort of came a little unglued in the second run. So here she kept it together. Track record, Emily Sweeney, USA.
Absolutely, a great result for her.
Now this will be interesting. A little bit of nerves at play, I'm sure, for 20-year-old Barbara Allmeyer. Her second year on the World Cup.
She probably will have heard that track record put down by Emily. Certainly makes you feel the pressure on the start, so she just needs to stay calm.
She lost half the advantage already just at the top, but again, she was very fast, like Sweeney, in the lower part of the track in Nations Cup and in run number 1.
Absolutely. She has dropped into the red, but only by 7 thousandths. And there is still plenty of track left as she's coming through this labyrinth section.
Here we'll see how it's trending from 7 thousandths to 500ths.
She
still
is
not out of
back.
it.
She is dropping back, still not out of it, and there is a possibility to turn it around in this bottom section.
Clean. And 1/10 of a second. That should be too much to make up. It will still be a really respectable result for Barbara Allmeyer, falling back just 1 spot. A top 4 for the Austrian, but a podium position for the USA.
And what a week the USA are having to kick off their season. A gold medal so far in the women's, and a guaranteed medal now. Sorry, in the women's doubles, and a guaranteed medal now in the women's singles.
Well, the Americans have always been outspoken about the fact of if you keep these races out of Germany, it's more of a level playing field.
And certainly a track like Lillehammer, there isn't a large nation that uses this as a home track. So it is far more of a level playing field than we will see at other stops on the circuit.
Barbara Allmeyer, she's got to be pleased with how things unfolded today in the World Cup opener. Top 5 among this powerful Austrian team, a team that includes this woman, the world champion, Lisa Schulte.
I'm not sure who decided to put black writing on a black bib, but there we go.
We advocate, we don't criticize.
Nope.
All right, Lisa on course now. The 23-year-old from Mieders, Austria. She's in the green already. Now, her time was very similar to Allmeyer's time after the first run. They were basically tied for second and third. And Lisa keeping it a little bit more together in comparison to Sweeney here, staying out in front. 0.04 of a second. Let's see this next one.
We know she can perform under pressure. We know she can put down a good run here. She is losing time already to Emily, and she's just dropping back into the red. Problems there out of 13. That will have cost her.
Quick correction, though, to keep it close. This could put her on the podium, but not hold her spot. Let's see. Yes, second place. So Lisa Schulte makes it onto the podium. Emily Sweeney moves up 1 more spot, at least into the top 2. Right now it's USA, Austria, Germany, and USA. That's the top 5 with 1 very strong athlete still to come.
Really good result there from Lisa, guaranteeing herself no worse than a silver medal here today.
That's right. Despite the World Championship yesterday, or last year, not yesterday, Lisa still doesn't have a ton of podium finishes. Maybe 2 or 3. So this is another one to add that.
I think she's still looking for her a World Cup gold.
Victory. Yeah, she's the David Gleiche of Austria. The women's, David won that Olympic gold, having never been a winner, maybe never having been on the podium. Okay, now the news at hand. Women's luge, the World Cup opener, and the best in the world, not named Natalie Geisenberger over the past decade, and certainly the best over the last 3 or 4 seasons. This is Julia Taubitz, the smiling German 4-time World Cup overall champion.
Let's see what sort of a run she can put down here. It is hers to lose at this point. She has 15 hundredths over second place, and that's gaining to 19 hundredths already.
12 races last year on the World Cup, including the sprints. Julia was 9th in the final race, but on the podium every other event.
She is increasing her lead here so far, putting down a really clean run, and now she is 2/10 ahead.
Really, the only question is, can she keep it together? 12 and 13. Can she set a track record? Everything looks pretty good.
Problems there, looping now in curve 15, and a problem there going into 16. Will it be enough?
It is enough. She gave away the track record down there at the bottom, but she wins the race with the 16th fastest start. But as always, Julia Taubitz, one of the fastest down at the bottom, and she takes it by a little less than 1/10 of a second over the USA's Emily Sweeney. Lisa Schulte completes the podium.
Definitely a risky bottom section from her. We saw some mistakes through that curve 14, 15, 16 section, but she'd gained enough speed in that top section that she could still walk away here with the gold. What a result for her to kick off her pre-Olympic season.
That is World Cup victory number 28 for Julia Taubitz. Now, we should qualify that a little bit, Elsa. Of her 28 wins, 11 have been in the sprint. We can't just erase the record books. Those races happen, but I think it is important to differentiate when you start approaching the best in the world in your total number.
Absolutely.
What's happened.
And with so many athletes that didn't get the opportunity to compete in the sprint, it was such a reduced field. I definitely think it's worth qualifying, although it does not in any way reduce how amazing that is as an achievement.
That's right. And hugs from Natalie and from Jessica. And if you are keeping score, Natalie Geisenberger recently retired. Her 52 World Cup wins include 49 in the traditional race, so she's the de facto leader. Taubitz, though, another one to add to her record. Sweeney in second, Lisa Schulte third. Great showing by the Austrians, the Americans, and the Germans, who basically dominate the majority of the top 10.
Yeah, really great results there from Austria. Some of their younger athletes can definitely walk away happy from this track as they go into their home track in Austria, Innsbruck, next week with the new start height for the women.
So yeah, it's those 3 nations, 9 out of the top 10. That's incredible. Italy in 10th place.
And Ukraine in 20th.
That's right. We have World Cup standings coming up momentarily, and first we'll take a look at a little reprise of our top 3 today. Lisa Schulte, great to see that Lisa is going to be kind of a steady force. Maybe will she be consistent all year long? Same with Emily. How important to start the season off on the right foot.
Absolutely, and a really interesting race here because even those medalists, we didn't see two perfect runs from anyone. Even Julia made mistakes in that bottom section. Just shows how fantastic it is to come to these tracks where no one has a home track advantage, and we get an exciting race.
And we await the interviews as Ines Fogelis, the president of the International Luge Federation, is presenting the prizes to our podium winners. Emily Sweeney, Lisa Schulte in third, and Julia Taubitz off to a good start
We love that.
as she tries to defend her World Cup overall. What is it about her that does it so well?
She's just such a clean athlete. She's so relaxed on the sled, such good form, very confident, very clean lines, and a little bit of that German magic.
World Cup standings, a full reflection of today's results, but they will be counting them up throughout the season in all of the races, 10 or 9 World Cup races, 10 stops, including the World Championships. And we don't have that confusion of the overall and the sprint and all of that. We have one number, and that's all that matters this year.
Absolutely. Mixed event will not be counted towards the points of the World Cup overall in the way that the sprint used to be.
And as you see, World Cup points go the full field. And let's hear from the top athletes.
Julia, what a race. Right off the World Cup win last season, and now first race of the season, also a win. How do you feel?
Yeah, it feels really good, but the second run was so hard for me. I think I crashed in 14, 15, 16, but yeah, I get the sled in the finish, and I'm really happy about it. It's a little bit sad because I wanted to have the track record, but now Emily has it. Was really good from her, and yeah, I'm really happy about it.
Great race, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I think we'll go right down, as we can see in the distance, and American Emily Sweeney.
Emily, track record for you, P2, first race of the season. How do you feel now?
Thanks. I'm really excited. It's awesome. I didn't expect to walk away with a track record, so I'm stoked on that. And I'm really proud of my start times this race, so I'm excited.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And when you walk away with a track record, you keep that until probably the next time they race here. So that's kind of nice. Third place, the world champion, Lisa Schulte.
Podium for you. Congratulations. How was your performance today? Are you happy with it?
Thank you. I'm very happy because my trainings were more downs than up recently. But my first run I'm really happy with. The second run was a bit sloppy, but I'm really happy to be on the podium again. It's nice.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And Elsa, before we go, Lisa just talked about a little sloppy in the second run, but let's harken back to what the winner just said. Julia said she was close to crashing. Did you pick that up during the run?
Yeah, she definitely had some problems in that bottom section. She almost went into a skid out of 13. She hit early into curve 15. Could have flipped her there. She did very well to control it. Bit of looping, and then again another hit before curve 16. So definitely some problems there, but she made up enough time in the top section to have that podium.
An exciting finish to the opening World Cup. 3 different nations on the podium: Germany, USA, and Austria. And we're not done. We've got men's doubles coming up in just a little bit to conclude this busy opening day on the FIL World Cup. But until then, Elsa, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to a lot more commentary for you this season.
Thank you very much, and I'll hopefully see you next race.
And good luck tomorrow. That's Elsa Desmond. And until this men's doubles competition, on behalf of our entire FIL television crew, I'm Tim Singer saying so long for now, and thanks for joining us.